So hello everyone, I'm Shina Noor Ahmed. You guys have got few days before your exams now, but just don't fret about it. What I'll say is that, while we discuss the Dover Beach, because it's the kind of poem that seems really important, so just make sure that you grab a pen and a notebook and you start noting down important points and you study the poem along with the video. Okay, just give an hour or 30 minutes to it, you will be good to go. So don't fret about it. All right. Another thing is that I'll just ask you to do me a favor. Just comment down below what is the exact, text that you're facing problems with. Any specific text that you need help with, the Tempest or the stories or the poems, anything you need help with, just specifically comment which ones. And we can do the same with language. Either you do that, or I can just give a brief idea in a pretty lengthy video about every single text that you have in your syllabus. So just let me know what works with you. Alright, now today we'll do the Tower Beach. It is a very important poem in a lot of ways because it's pretty much important. You really need to understand the poem, and it's a beautiful poem too. So let's begin with it. So now, as I always say, no matter how much weightage the question carries, be it 4 marks, 8 marks, whatever, 20 marks, whatever, it is always a good idea to give an introduction about the author, about the poet. It's always a good idea to do that. So in case of Matthew Arnold, you have to you don't have, I think you guys must have had it in the first semester, right? The other two poems by Tennyson and who else was there? Hardy, yes. So yeah, I think you must have studied the Darkling Thrush and Crossing the Bar. So this poem is the kind of one that requires an understanding of the other two as well. Now if you have read it, well and good. If you haven't, we'll just glance through those poems too. So yeah, now coming back to Arnold, now he was a Victorian poet and he was quite an important poet and an eminent poet, and he was the one who was considered the third-rate poet of the era along with Tennyson and Browning. And we can understand that he was like, if you refer to Reverie, your textbook, you'll find out that what he wrote in a letter to his mother, and that talked about his position in the world of literature. So that already gives you an idea of the fact that he is the kind of person who is very well versed with the art of analyzing things, right? If he can analyze his position in the world of literature so well, imagine how well he can analyze social conditions, right? And if you want to, you can even give an excerpt of that letter which is mentioned in your text, just a little part of it. You can even do that, because do anything that enhances your answer. And if you're someone who is bothered about length, it can actually help you with that. And it's not just about length, it actually enhances the quality if you give such insights. So make sure you do that. Apart from that, he is considered a sage writer. Now, sage writer is, as you can read here, is the one who can make the reader aware about contemporary social issues, and we see such a tinge in the Dover Beach too. Like here we are discussing the loss of faith in that era. So yeah, and this genre developed from wisdom literature of Middle East. Now, wisdom literature is in itself a very broad and a very an extensive genre of literature. So it includes books like works like the Book of Job, which is from the Old Testament of the Bible. So it includes that kind of works. All right, so this sage writing has emerged from that wisdom literature. It is like it is something that is derived from wisdom literature, from the genre of wisdom literature. So it's good if you mention such insights and details in your answer. Now coming to the background of the poem. Now, as I have already mentioned, you can draw interesting parallels with Thomas Hardy and Lord Alfred Tennyson, who have raised similar concerns regarding faith in the Darkling Thrush and in Crossing the Bar, respectively. because all of them belong to the same era, right? Now, during this time, industrial revolution had changed the ways of life immensely, as we can already understand, right? It led to a scientific uprising of a sort. And Charles Darwin, he published The Origin of Species, which put forth the idea of evolution, and this went against the religious ideal of creation. And in fact, even now, I think a lot of people, end up having debates on this topic. So even now, it is a very relevant idea. Some people go with the idea of evolution, some people go with the idea of creation. So even today, it is a bone of contention. Now, moving on, religious clashes were going on. There were new churches emerging, and utilitarian scholars. They were promoting the idea of virtue, not being the motivation for human actions. They were promoting the idea that self-interest was what motivated people. But that is not the case as per religious understanding, because basically Christianity or any other religion for that matter, it promotes the idea of virtue, but these people, they were talking about self-interest, and this was going against the idea of virtue as promulgated by religion. So there were such contentions going on. Religion was being attacked from all sides, and you can understand, if somebody is religious and somebody comes forth and starts attacking that, what sort of existential crisis you'll face. Like, that is what you live by, and all of a sudden someone comes up and tells you, like, no, what you believe in does not exist, and they start attacking faith. How will you feel? How will that feel? Won't it feel like, oh no, what is going on around? What is the meaning of all this? It's a different kind of helplessness, a different kind of existential crisis, and this is what we find in the writings of these writers. And I think it's pretty much a human tendency to look for other sources of reliance. Like, in case of Thomas Hardy, you see that he ends the Darkling Thrush on a note of uncertainty and a sort of optimism. Like, he believes that maybe there is something. There is a tone of maybe in the Darkling Thrush. If I'm describing it correctly, there is this tone of maybe that, there's a possibility, there is an optimism that, faith exists, there is someone to protect us. In case of Tennyson, you see that, he is very much unshaken from his stand, that he believes in God and he knows that he'll meet God. He has that certainty in tone. And in case of Arnold, you see an entirely different idea. You see an idea that love, no matter what's happening around in the world, no matter what is true, what is not true, love is true, and love stays. And I think that's a beautiful, heart-touching idea, and I love the poem for that, because that emphasis on love is a beautiful idea. And the poem is specifically in the context of romantic love, but I think love can be in any sort. You can interpret it as a love for the people who are close to you, love for nature. You can interpret it like that, but the poem specifically emphasizes on romantic love. And yeah, moving on. Now, coming on to the poem is a dramatic monologue. One person is delivering it, and it is marked by an elegiac tone, right? So, an elegy is a poem that laments. In particular, it laments a death, and we'll understand why is it an elegy in a way. All right. So, the location is very important. It is located at the Dover Beach. The Dover Beach is actually, its location is quite interesting. You have the English Channel between France and Britain, and when you are at the Dover Beach, you can look at the coast of France across the English Channel. So basically, Dover is a beach that has high cliffs of chalk which light up in the moonlight. Alright, so he talks about the fact that the light was gleaming on the French coast and then it went out, and that's very significant. At that point in France, the idea of the naturalists who were propagating the idea of evolution, they were actually getting acceptance from the people. So the poet believes that the light of faith The light of faith on the chalk cliffs of Dover is still shining. It's still alive. Faith is still alive in Britain, but it has probably died out in France. The light has gone out. The light of faith has gone out in France and maybe in other parts of the world too. So that's how the lines become very significant. Alright, moving on. Now basically the second paragraph here, it talks about the entire poem and we'll be analyzing it properly. So the lines that go from only to in, alright, these lines are exhibiting a kind of pathetic fallacy. This device we also came across in the singing lesson. Now how and what is actually being described? So alright. Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land, listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling at their return up the high strand, begin and cease and then again begin with tremulous cadence slow and bring the eternal note of sadness in. So how does that actually work? This pathetic fallacy is actually attributing the condition of human misery to the sea. Like, the pebbles. The pebbles are being drawn back, okay? It hurts, but somehow the misery is being drawn back. It's going away. It hurts. It hurts a lot when it goes away, but it is going away. And then again, it comes back. There is peace for a while, and then again, the pebbles are flung at the shore by the waves. And that's how misery is. It goes away, and there is temporary lull. There is temporary calmness, but then it hits hard. It comes back and it hits hard. That's how wretched the human condition is. So that's how the condition of human misery is, and this is what the poet is trying to describe in the lines. And for emphasizing on his point, he talks about Sophocles. Now Sophocles, actually who is Sophocles? He's a Greek tragedian, and being an English honors student, I have the privilege of getting to read his works, and I read Oedipus Rex in my first semester and it's beautiful. So if you get time, please make sure that you read Sophocles. So it is being mentioned that maybe Sophocles had also witnessed this same scenario, how the pebbles were being drawn back and then being flung at the shore again. Maybe this is what made him feel the truth about human condition, that we are always going to suffer from misery. We are never going to be free from misery. And maybe this is why he went on to become such a good tragedian. Maybe he felt the same like the poet is feeling right now. So it's very important. And even you had an MCQ from this part. It was in the specimen paper. It was asked who was Sophocles. So he's a Greek tragedian. And you also have to make sure that you read the text very analytically, because there was a question that what did he actually hear on the agency. So the correct answer should be the sound of human misery, but there was another similar option that was talking about the noise of the sea or something. The two options can confuse students, but the proper answer is the sound of human misery, okay? So please make sure that you read the text very well. Don't get confused. Basically some questions are going to be direct. Some questions are going to be analytical and they are going to give you very close options. Okay. But if you read carefully, you can ace that. Okay. Moving on. Now he talks about the fact that the sea of faith. Oh God, I'm so sorry for that. So the sea of faith was once full and now it's receding. So whenever the sea is receding, it's going to leave behind that parched land, that ugly parched land. And when the sea of faith is receding, it's leaving behind the naked shingles of humans, okay, of human soul. It's leaving behind those naked shingles of human soul, the cruelty of human souls, the harshness of human nature is being left behind because faith is receding. And how can we say that? You take the example of the utilitarians. They are promoting self-interest, right? And if you have studied economics as a subject, you'll know that Adam Smith talks about the fact that, the invisible hand, when you are promoting your interest, you're ultimately promoting somebody else's interest too. But think about it. If you're working just for yourself, you're just working for your self-interest, you're doing things just for your interest, what kind of person you will be? Won't you be a selfish person? In one way or the other, you're going to be selfish. So imagine the harsh human nature that's being left behind because sea of faith is receding. Think about it and you'll know. All right. Now coming towards the favorite stanza. So here we observe the usage of anaphora in the lines so various, so beautiful, so new. So basically the poet is trying to point out that this world seems so beautiful, so various. There is a variety of things in life, but is there certainty in life? No. Right now he is with his beloved. They are looking at the moon and they are looking at the beach. But is there a certainty that they are going to be together forever? Is there a certainty that tomorrow they'll be together? No. There's no certainty. That moment has tranquility. But is that tranquility going to last? Nobody can say. So there's no certitude. And when there's no certitude, how do you expect peace? And if you are aching, if your heart's aching, do you think someone will genuinely come up and help you? This is the world where people are living for self-interest. You think someone will come up and, give you a shoulder to cry on? That doesn't happen. That usually doesn't happen. The world is a harsh place. People will just tell you to be mature enough to handle things, but nobody is going to feel that ache for you. You're just going to ache and you'll have to deal with it. That's how it is. So, moving on, he talks about the fact that ignorant armies are clashing by the night. So, ignorant armies. Now think about this. We have come across the fact that there are people who belong to a particular church. There are people who belong to rational or, rational is not a very good word to use here. So, the scientific way of life. And some people are there who are dealing with faith. Okay, they believe in faith. They are living by the idea of faith. And all these people are constantly arguing amongst themselves. It's not just at his time. Even in the present day, you can find people arguing about everything they believe in. You will find so many people arguing unnecessarily about literally every thing that they believe in. There are people who do that, right? So all these people, does anybody of them, does any single one of them actually know that what is the truth of life? Nobody knows. They are just different branches of thought process, and they don't even know that if theirs is the absolute truth, but they're still arguing. And who are they arguing against? They're just arguing against humans, other humans, their fellow brethren. They are just fighting against them and arguing. So all these ignorant armies are clashing by the night. They are clashing in darkness. Their memory, not exactly their memory, but their thoughts are clouded. Okay, they are not able to see that they are fighting against other humans. Okay, so these ignorant armies are clashing. There is no peace. So where do you go for solace? And that's where love comes in. That's where love comes in. And he says that, even though there is a lot of chaos in the world, even then, if you are going to be true to your beloved, there's always hope. There's always solace. Love is solace. And I love the poem for this idea, and yeah, that's just it. I just love the poem. So I hope it was clear enough, and now we'll move on. All right, now the analysis and answer writing. So analysis part we have already covered. I'll just tell you that go through your workbook very carefully. Try to mention the poetic devices because it enhances the quality. Even if you don't go on talking about every single device, at least mention the main ones. Okay, like allusion is there, and there is pathetic fallacy, there is anaphora. So at least pay attention to them and mention that. Elaborate on the backdrop, extremely important, very important. Give an introduction of the author, as you know, and read the poem analytically, because there was another question that what does Sophocles hear on the sea, on the Aegean Sea? And there was the correct answer should be the sound of human misery. Okay, but there is another option that deals with the idea of sea, but that doesn't fit perfectly, and people can actually get confused between the two. So read the poem very carefully. They are not going to give you direct MCQs all the time. MCQs, as I have said, they can be direct, they can be analytical. So pay attention to the text when you read it, and I hope that should help for now. All the very best.